Yeah!
To First Things First, the show that for a day doesn't have to pretend to be interested in the Patriots. On today's show,
I like that.
the Chiefs. So, Brew, you've been waiting with bated breath, dare I say, to be able to shovel dirt on this team all year. And they finally gave you an opening. All it took was Patrick having the swine flu and 5 turnovers, and all of a sudden, you're able to. So, and it should be noted, with this loss, the Chiefs plummet from first in the AFC all the way down to first in the AFC. So, with that context, was this Chiefs loss to the Broncos something or nothing?
Okay. I get it.
What?
The sky is not falling in Kansas City. Okay? We get that the sun will come out tomorrow for the Chiefs. All right?
Okay.
But you, Nick Wright, are in danger as you mock the loss of doing what the Chiefs did, Greg, yesterday, which is take this team lightly. And you were taking that game yesterday lightly.
I didn't play.
And look, I'm not saying they're still a contender. But this is something.
Okay.
All right, this is something. They have faced, Greg, the Denver Broncos. Dare I say your Denver Broncos?
You can say that.
All right.
Feel
I'll
free.
give you
Feel
props
free.
on that.
Yeah. Feel free.
They have faced the Broncos twice in the last 3 weeks and scored 28 total points. Okay? The Broncos that gave up 70.
It's a different Broncos team.
70. No, it wasn't that
It's a
long
different
ago.
Broncos team.
70 points to Miami. Heck, they gave up 31 to Zach Wilson's Jets. All right, and they couldn't muster more than 9 points yesterday. It is something, and something is amiss in Kansas City, folks, and Brew knows what it is.
Oh,
and y'all know
person.
what it is, too.
Going third person.
Because I've been telling you since day one. I've been telling you since the preseason. Actually, been telling you since the first loss. When you saw receivers drop, I think, 4 passes. You got receivers that either can't catch, can't get open, or can't hold on to the football once they do catch it. All right, and here you go. Who's that? MVS? Is that
MVS.
who that is? Here's McCole Hart. I like McCole, but what is this? I mean, come on. And here, Sky Moore, Greg, I know it's your guy, Sky Moore. Oh! Yeah,
It's
he
nobody's.
dropped it in the end zone. And I think, there it is again.
Yeah.
So they have I told you they are taking Patrick Mahomes for granted.
Okay.
Just get him one. Just one great receiver. I'm not asking for Jerry Rice. I'm not even asking it'd be nice for Devontae Adams. Maybe you can try to get him a receiver who's a number 1 or even a legit number 2. Last year, that's all you had with Juju.
Can I ask a question? Oh, go ahead.
Well,
Sorry,
I got more.
Oh, you
all
got
right?
more. Sorry.
Because here, I want to convince you of this. Now, look at the points. If you take away look at the under Mahomes, 35 points a game. That's per game. 28, 30, 28, 29. This year all the way down to 23.
Yeah.
If you take out the Chicago Bears game where they dropped 41, they're averaging 20 points a game with the best quarterback on the planet. And so that's why I say they got to get a receiver. And here's how I close, Nick. Look, I am nothing if not objective and fair. All right?
Okay.
I've told you guys I carry the pom-poms for no one.
Yeah.
I carry no
Except
man's
for,
water. I don't
Iowa
do
Mafia.
PR for any team. All right? And Micah Parsons told me to keep that same energy for other teams. So I'm going to keep it. Micah, this is for you and your Cowboys. Kansas City Chiefs.
What?
F game. You brought your F game and you must reckon with that.
All right, that's fine. By the way,
for
Brew,
Mike and the
all right, with all
Cowboys.
that
Good
said,
job
everything,
yesterday.
I'm just curious. When we were on the air 1 week ago today, who did you say was the league MVP?
At that point,
it was Patrick Mahomes with these same weapons. So listen, here's the thing.
It does change.
America today wants me to be despondent. They want me to right here and be like, the Chiefs aren't what I thought they were. What I will be today is sad. I am sad that all the streaks were snapped yesterday. I am sad that Mahomes is no longer undefeated on the road against divisional opponents, which was an insane stat. I'm sad that Mahomes is no longer undefeated against the Denver Broncos. I'm sad that Mahomes is no longer undefeated against bad teams that were 2 or more games under 500. I'm sad that that for just the 4th time in Mahomes' career, the Chiefs lost by more than 1 score for the first time in more than 40 games, which was my favorite of all the Chiefs stats, and now they have to start anew. But I am not concerned because the solution is quite simple. One is Patrick needs to play better. He's the best player in the league, and up to this point in the season, he has played receiver position be damned like a really good quarterback. He has not played like the head and shoulders best player in the league, and he will. But the other reason I am not that concerned, not really at all concerned, is yesterday's game, if I may steal a line from the person whose job I'm doing today, and Kevin Wildes, it was just the turnovers. Every team loses. Let me show you if I can show you the numbers, please. Yeah. NFL history. When you have 5 turnovers, you lose. When you lose the turnover battle by at least 4, you lose. It's not that the Broncos move the ball up and down the field, and it wasn't, Greg, that the Chiefs couldn't move the ball. I understand they couldn't score in the red zone. I understand that they couldn't punch it in. All of that. But they were moving the ball throughout the game. And in the second half, when they didn't have many yards, it's because they never had the ball because of the muffed punt and because of the Mahomes turnovers. And so everyone is allowed, and every team in the league has a bad loss. My actual saving grace is, thankfully, I no longer am going to have to hear about the Chiefs losing to the Colts last year ever again, because this game will now replace it. We will be in November of next year, and Brew will be like, you remember, the Chiefs lost to the lowly Broncos. So here, everyone right now, Greg, is going to, I think, overreact to the loss. Now, what I will give you is this. I don't think they need a new wide receiver. I don't think they need to add one. I do think, Greg, they need to subtract one. I'm about done with the Sky Moore snaps.
Oh, wow.
I know he's a fellow alum of yours.
Look, we were talking before.
We were talking. Listen, the wide receiver rotation. No, don't cut him. But just Rashee Rice is really good and needs to be on the field. Mm-hmm.
He had a drop yesterday.
That draft last year, you got McDuffie, you got Karlaftis, you got Pacheco, you got 3 other rotational defensive players. You're not going to hit on every pick. And Sky Moore has now multiple times this year on 4th downs in the 2 losses had an impossible Mahomes pass, hit him in the hands, and he drops it. Yep. So to me, it is far closer to the nothing side of things, and this is the play Brew was trying to show earlier. Same with the 4th and 25 against Detroit earlier in the year. Yeah. So that's where I'm at, Greg.
Hey, Dusty!
Oh, what is this?
Can you please bring me this bulletin board before I even get into my take? Because I remember being right here in this very position.
Oh, God.
And I remember, let's see, I'm on the board because I said definitely 1 for the Broncos, maybe 2. Well, they didn't get the 2, but they got that definitely 1. Am I able to take myself off the board?
That's only fair.
I think it's only
Taylor Swift came off the board.
I think it's only fair.
Travis Kelce, because then she got they got together.
I think it's only fair. I think it's only fair to come off the board.
You know what? You nailed that. Yeah. You nailed it. You were right, Greg.
I was right. I'm done with the board.
Look, it's a shame you weren't on the show last week, because I'm curious if you would have stuck with it. But go ahead.
Absolutely. Until proven wrong, I have to remain with the integrity of my takes. But when I look at this Chiefs, there is definitely something to be concerned about. And you alluded to it a little bit when you started talking about Patrick Mahomes. Their strength has always been the offense. The offense will overcome all the woes, all the lulls throughout the course of the season. That has not truly been the case. They have struggled not only to put the ball in the end zone, but even with turnovers. We've seen Patrick Mahomes be non-Patrick Mahomes-esque when we see him throwing the ball. Like, what I loved about what the Denver Broncos did, They just stayed true to who they were. They didn't try to do anything special. They didn't send extra men blitzing Patrick Mahomes. They stayed in their zone. They tried to rush him with 4. They maintained the integrity of their rush lanes, and they forced him to try to win with other guys outside of Patrick or Travis Kelce.
Right.
That is how you beat the Kansas City Chiefs. And when you listen to Patrick Mahomes say, what they've been able to do these last 2 weeks, out of the 3 weeks that they've played, with stifling their offense to a degree, other teams are going to try this. If you can turn them over, if you can stop them from getting in the end zone, because we know their receivers are going to drop balls. Unfortunately, guys, I'm on your side because I play receiver and I know you can't catch them all, but you're not catching hardly any of them. If you're fumbling the ball, if all these things are going to work against you, and Patrick Mahomes isn't playing
like Superman,
he's got
to play like Superman.
This
with the
team is
with
beatable.
This squad,
This team is definitely beatable. So there's room for concern because your greatest strength has now become problematic. And if I can't rely on my strength, then I have to rely on something else.
Which, by
and
the
they
way,
haven't been able to do that.
I mean, they've been able to rely on the defense as the offense has been a work in progress, and they're going to go to Germany and they're going to beat Miami, and everyone's going to be like, remember when we freaked out about the Chiefs? All right, over to the team I picked to go to the Super Bowl.
Well, look, I said on Friday, Greg, you weren't here, Coach Mangini, he wasn't here either, but I said it would be nice if they made a statement with their play instead of with their mouths. They always making them with their mouths. I wanted them to make it with their play. And look, yesterday, I thought they'd win. I didn't think they'd win like this, but I thought they'd win. Dak Prescott was great. I got to give him his props. Right? Threw for 300 yards. First time this year he's thrown for 300 yards. CeeDee Lamb, this is what could be different for them. Because after they lost to the Niners, CeeDee Lamb complained and he talked privately with Mike McCarthy and Dak about how they were using. He had like 5 targets, 4 catches, and that had been like a few games straight like that with 4 catches. So he kind of was like, you're not using me the right way. And the last 2 games since then, look at this. So he has 27 receptions first 5 games, 19 in the last 2, almost as much yardage, and 2 touchdowns, 1 more in the last 2 games than he had on the first 5. So CeeDee, it looked like they were using him a little differently, wasn't in the slot as much exclusively, like he was out a little more than usual. And so I think they found something there. I like that they scored. We've seen the defense score before and the special teams, but all of them contributed yesterday and scored points with the safety from the special teams and the defense. Deron Bland, I mean, 3 pick sixes. Absolutely. So I have got, look, I got to be fair. Micah called for the same energy, right? He called for the same enery.
Let me see
So
it.
Micah,
for the first time all
Dak,
year.
CD, Jerry, all of you, take a bow. Didn't Jerry take a bow? Take a bow, Jerry. I'm about fairness and objectivity. You got an A game. You brought your A game.
Again, with Wilds out for the day, we needed someone to be the mayor of fair. I'm glad you're able to do it. This is the team that I'll be just totally transparent. I hoped and I expected to see all year when I picked them to go to the Super Bowl. And the formula was, I said before the year, I thought the Dallas Cowboys had the best defense in the NFL. And they haven't lived up to that exact billing. But if we show you the numbers, they're in the ballpark and they could get there. And everything about the team will work better when the defense is doing what it did yesterday, which is A, you are able to put the other team in must-pass situations so you can tee off with your pass rush. And B, Dak Prescott looks like a top 5 quarterback when he is playing with confidence and free and clear, and that's what the defense allowed for yesterday. And so I think that was, Greg, a very mature performance. And by that I mean they put that game away by halftime. And when you're coming off a bye and you have your most important game of the year next week at Philadelphia, this is the exact type of performance you want is get guys out early, dominate this team because they can't block us. And they did exactly that. And then you look around, and I know we'll talk about these teams later, but the rest of the NFC, most notably the Niners, all of a sudden stumbling. You're playing Philadelphia next week for de facto first place in the conference. So, yeah, I agree with you, Brew. To me, it was as well-rounded of a performance as a team had in the league all week.
Yeah, this was definitely an A game. And the reason for me why it was an A game is because of what they look like offensively, and particularly Dak Prescott. Like, since right before the bye, when they played the Chargers, he had an outstanding game, even in that game, using his legs, beating you down the field. This game, coming off a bye, they made a conscious effort to push the ball down the field. It wasn't just CeeDee Lamb. We even saw Brandon Cooks
for the first time.
For the first time all year.
It was like have them trade for Hollywood Brown to replace Brandon
Cooks. Showed up. And so when you start to see different guys show up and the usage of CeeDee Lamb and how you're mixing him around with formation variation, you're going to make it very difficult for any defensive coordinator to get a beat on how you can cover this guy. We see it with A.J. Brown. We see it with Tyreek Hill. We see it with Devontae Adams, all these big-name receivers. And so when you look at the Dallas Cowboys, no one was ever truly concerned about defensively. Will they slip? We know they're going to be good. The question has always been revolving around Dak Prescott. And if he plays this way, this team, is a tough out for anybody.
And because if we can just show you their schedule real quick, Hubs, and then we'll move on. Obviously, they have this massive game next week on Fox against the Eagles. But then Giants, Panthers, Washington.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is a team that I feel like worst case scenario, of course, but is going to be at worst 8-3, and if they beat Philly, could be 9-2 going into that meat of their season.
And look, they want, if they can get that number one seed in the NFC, because that was their 11th straight win yesterday at home.
Yep.
So they're a lot tougher there. So that'd be huge for them.
All right, now from my Super Bowl pick out of the NFC to Brews, the Eagles won another nail-biter against Washington. Second time this year, this Washington game's either been overtime or a one-score game. Jalen Hurts was the engine, 4 touchdowns. The odds makers now have them as the co-Super Bowl favorites with those wildly flawed Chiefs that are betraying Patrick Mahomes. Do the Eagles deserve, Brew, to be Super Bowl favorites now that they are officially the league's only one-loss team?
I do think they should. And not because of the standings. I know you don't like that. But they should. I don't mind a tough, hard-fought win like they just had yesterday. Some people get excited about the blowouts. Right, Washington, that's a rivalry. They're going to play them tough.
Divisional games.
The Eagles, here's the thing about the Eagles.
It is hard to win road divisional games. Imagine winning 13 straight. Go ahead.
Here's the thing about the Eagles is that they, Greg, unlike the Cowboys, they don't have to ask themselves, can we win the close ones? Even the Niners, Fred Warner brought that up, right?
Sure.
Yeah, we can blow somebody out when it's going well. We can win by 20, 25, 30 points. What about when it gets tough? When you know, it's a battle, it's nip and tuck all the way to the end. Philadelphia has a lot of those games, right? Where they just wear you down over the course of 60 minutes and eventually win the game. So I like that about them. And I like this too. And you know, one of the reasons I haven't wavered about them this year is because of Jalen Hurts. The leadership, the character, the work ethic. 2 weeks ago, people are complaining about him, 7 touchdowns, 7 interceptions in 6 games. So what does he do? He goes into the lab. Completion percentage way up. Yards per game way up. Look at the TD to interception ratio and passer rating. That's what this guy is about. He's their leader. So, I do think, Nick, considering how close the Super Bowl was between them and the Chiefs, I think what they've done this year, they deserve to be the favorite.
Yeah, they're the favorites right now, and deservingly so because they have the best record. They obviously, their resume, it fits. But when you look at this team, it's in the way the NFL season has been going so far, it's moving every single week.
Yeah.
First it was the Niners, then it was the Cowboys, it's the Chiefs, and then it's Ravens, it's the Lions, all these different teams. But right now, with the style of football that they play, they understand who they are. The identity, you talk about Jalen Hurts and his numbers going up, a reason why is because they understand who is their number one receiver, and that's A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown is on a tear like no other. I know we've been talking about Tyreek Hill, but when you look at this guy right here, games with 125-plus receiving yards, it's A.J. Brown, and then it's all great receivers.
Well, that's the thing. And those are the only guys with at least 4 straight in the last 20-some years. He's at 6
And I got to say, it is hard to consistently, week after week, produce at the level that he and Tyreek Hill have been producing, when you know the attention is going to be on you and you know you're going to run the ball, you know the defense is going to focus all on what you do, even with passing the ball, this team is tough. And you mentioned it really quick. They understand how to win any style of football game that you need them to win. They can get it done.
So here's my only concern, because I was going to bring up the A.J. Brown thing as well. I totally agree. I think barring injury, he and Tyreek have first-team All-Pro spots locked up.
Yep.
Justin Jefferson missed time. Jamar got the slow start. Those two guys have been, without a doubt, the two best receivers in football. And we're going to talk about whether or not Tyreek might be the MVP of the whole league, and A.J. Brown's production is almost equivalent to Tyreek. He's been great. My concern for Philadelphia is how much of an edge do they have any given week at quarterback when their defense turns the opposing team's quarterback into Jalen Hurts. And by that, we can show you the numbers. Jalen Hurts, I agree with you, Brew, has played really well.
Yeah.
And every week he has to beat himself because the Eagles' defense allows, whether it's Sam Howell, whomever. And it's not like they've played a bunch of great quarterbacks thus far this year. Those are coming up over the next 6 weeks. That Eagles, that's why they added Kevin Byard, and he immediately played. Sam Howell still went up and down the field. And this week, I asked Dusty to see if we got the news at some point during the show. The best player on their defense, one of the best players on any defense this year, has been rookie Jalen Carter. He's getting an MRI today on his back. Those are two words you don't want to hear, is the MRI and the back. And so Philadelphia yesterday shockingly wasn't able to get to Sam Howell, and all of a sudden they're moving the ball up and down the field. So I think Philadelphia, listen, winning game's hard in this league. Yep. They've lost one game all year, and even that game they could have easily won if Jalen doesn't throw that pick. So I give them a ton of credit. If I were an Eagles fan, my one concern would be, last year, the good quarterbacks cooked us on the back end. This year, even not great quarterbacks have been cooking us on the back end, and I don't think they have any other moves to make there. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.